Hello, viewers. This is Doncroft, your host on the very first episode of Lore of StarCraft, and with me is Top Secret, member of One Goal.
Hello.
Boisterous, he is an aspiring StarCraft 2 caster and commentator.
Hello, everybody.
And we have Ragnarok, who is a big-time StarCraft lore lover.
It's good to be here.
And we are talking about a very interesting subject that I am going to start us off with a speech. Fellow Terrans, I come to you in the wake of recent events to issue a call to reason. Let no human deny the perils of our time. While we battle one another, divided by the petty strifes of our common history, the tides of a greater conflict have turned against us, threatening to destroy all that we have accomplished. It is time for us as nations and as individuals to set aside our long-standing feuds and unite. The tides of an unwinnable war are upon us, and we must seek refuge upon higher ground lest we be swept away by the flood. The Confederacy is no more. Whatever semblance of unity or protection it once provided is now a phantom, a memory. With our enemies left unchecked, who will you turn to for protection? The devastation wrought by the alien invaders is self-evident. We have seen our homes and communities destroyed by the calculated blows of the Protoss. We have seen firsthand our friends and loved ones consumed by the nightmarish Zerg. Unprecedented and unimaginable though they may be, these are the signs of our time. The time has come, my fellow Terrans, to rally to a new banner. In unity lies strength. Already many of the dissented factions have joined us. Out of the many, we shall forge an indivisible whole, capitulating only to a single throne. And from that throne, I shall watch over you. From this day forward, let no human make war upon any other human. Let no Terran agency conspire against this new beginning, and let no man consort with alien powers. And to all the enemies of humanity, seek not to bar our way, for we shall win through, no matter the cost.
That was a really impressive Mengsk.
Thank you.
It was really good.
Thank you. So that's from, I've had that memorized since I was a little kid.
Yeah, it was also a pitiful speech given what happened in the Brood War. It wasn't even the Zerg that defeated him. The UED came along.
I'm sure many of you are already guessing. The topic is Arcturus Mengsk and the founding of the Dominion. And go ahead, Ragnarok. I just wanted to get that out before we started.
Of course, it was a pitiful speech. What happened in the Brood War? The Zerg wasn't even the one who had beat him. The UED did that for them.
Okay, now this was a while before the Brood War. This was right at when see what set this all in motion was during the emancipation of Marsara. They raided the Jacobs installation, a top secret installation, and they discovered the plans for the Psi emitters.
I remember.
And that was, I'm sure many of us remember, and that was the weapon that really gave Mengsk and the Sons of Korhal teeth in the war against the Confederacy.
That's true.
It's very true. And it also made Mengsk look like a hero because basically the Zerg come in, they're infesting the Terran worlds, then they come in, they destroy the Confederacy, they destroy Tarsonis, which is the center of the Dominion, and then Mengsk gets to capitalize off this because if you look at his speech, everything he says in it is true. Every bit of it. Like, They are in danger from the Protoss and the Zerg at the time. They do need to unite. Humanity in the Kaplu sector is in danger. But it all just conveniently works towards his ends, and many of the events were engineered by himself.
Exactly. And the public never knew about this. They only knew the Zerg came to Tarsonis, destroyed the whole planet. They never knew why. Okay, and given the fact that the swarm go around infesting everything, most of the public just automatically assume, they must have just conveniently chose Tarsonis as their next target.
Right, and it's true. They were in a time of great strife. And if we look at history, military dictators such as Napoleon and Adolf Hitler. They both emerged at times of great peril for their people, and they appealed to a sense of nationalism and urgency and the need for change to boost themselves into power.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know what you mean. Stalin did the same thing for the Russian people during the German invasion. He called on his people for a great patriotic war.
Mm-hmm. So this is not something unique to StarCraft. This is something that really happens, has happened many times through human history, and we see it repeating itself in this work of fiction. So I was wondering, does anyone have any thoughts or things they've always wondered about Arcturus Mengsk, or maybe even a statement about him?
I've always. You can go.
Yeah, one thing I've always found interesting is that after he conquered and he, used his charisma to get a hold of the people, after that, according to all of the expanded universe and everything we've seen, he basically goes right downhill and becomes a very obvious dictator. He doesn't try to be subtle about a lot of things. I'm interested how he managed to hold on for an extra 4 years after that with basically no issues.
That is interesting. He had a massive military buildup, didn't he?
Yeah, and he also had almost complete control of the media. So people really didn't actually get that sense of corruption unless they actually saw it firsthand, which a lot of people didn't get that experience with.
That actually is exactly the reason why Raynor had to do on his rebellion, even regardless of what happened to Kerrigan. You have to remember, because the Dominions founded on this position, it meant Mengsk was the voice of law, the voice of order, the voice of justice, the voice of media, and whatever you want to call it like that. Therefore, how do you take this and bring him into the courtroom when he literally makes the law himself? You can't. Therefore, the rebellion is the only way to go.
Well, the Romans, when the Romans were in great danger, they would put aside the rule of law and the legislature, that was the Senate, and elect one man to give this one man absolute power over the military and government of the Roman Empire. And when that situation would be resolved, the man would, with honor, surrender his power, and they would resume the rule of law through the Senate. But the last one was Julius Caesar, and he wasn't very interested in giving up his power, was he?
That's the problem. Okay, in emergency times, if you give too much power to one person and to do it for too long, they just won't give it up.
Yep, and obviously Arcturus Mengsk never had that intention. What were you? Someone else was trying to talk. Sorry.
Okay, I was going to say this was actually what you saw. If you actually saw all the Dark Knight back in 2008, as the old saying goes, you either die a hero or you live to see yourself become the villain.
I've always thought that Mengsk always kind of had that deep thread of villainy in him, because he's this man that has been almost tortured his entire life by other people that have ruled over him. Like, his father was very abusive towards him. He had a rocky relationship with his father. And that, kind of leapfrogged right into him going into the Confederacy, Marine Corps, which kind of had the exact same almost extension onto him. And that ended with him taking over as the Dominion and then just rapidly falling into everything that had happened to him. He kind of acted like his own father did towards his son, Valerian, and then, he kind of ran the Dominion exactly like how the Confederacy was run.
Yeah, except even more powerful. The Confederacy was pretty much an oligarchy, unless I'm mistaken. It was ruled by a small group of powerful men. But Arcturus Mengsk has almost absolute power. I mean, well, he does. He has absolute power in the Dominion.
I checked up on the Confederacy. It was never one man. You had the Confederate Senate, whatever you call it like that. So it was a group of people. Even the Confederacy was smart enough to realize you can't entrust just one guy with that kind of power. It's too much.
Mm-hmm. But in some ways, they entrusted the power of their fringe worlds to one man. For instance, General Duke had almost complete military dominance in the area around Marsara, okay? Because they weren't interested in, it was kind of like a colony, when you've got a far-flung colony, you're not giving them equal representation, say, in the rule of government. So you had that going on. But the core worlds were pretty well run.
Well, Duke only had that power when he was sent out there to try and evacuate as many people off the planet as possible. He wasn't around until after the nuking of, or the glassing of, Chowsara.
Oh, yes, that's right. But basically they could assign someone like that at any time. So they let the magistrate and the other people just do their own thing until,
right.
Yeah. Which means the Confederacy was less united than the Dominion is. I mean, they're definitely united.
Well,
but
just to add on to that Edmund Duke point, he was actually a member of the leading class in the Confederacy. He was part of the Duke family, and basically the Confederacy was just led by all of the heads of houses of the old families, and they were like the ruling leaders.
Now,
so Duke probably did have something to do with the politics.
Mengsk was one of those ruling families, wasn't his father? Angus
Yes.
Mengsk? Yeah, it was Angus, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
he was one of the Confederate Senate members.
Yes, okay. Now, I wanted to say this earlier, that Mengsk, many of his, you talk about how he was always kind of a villain, but he doesn't really see himself that way. He's motivated by vengeance, mostly. I mean, what happened to Core Hall was appalling. 1,000 nuclear missiles dropped on all the major population centers.
Do you even realize how that all started? It all actually began with Angus. Okay,
Yep.
Angus Mengsk believed that the Confederacy was corrupt and it was leading humanity all the way downhill. It would eventually lead them to destruction. And Confederacy was angered by this, so Kerrigan was sent to have Angus assassinated.
Mm-hmm.
After that
Whole
was
family.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, but that didn't work. It only made Core Hall more hostile towards the Confederacy. So the Confederacy decided, okay, let's just launch a bunch of nuclear missiles. Let's blow Core Hall to smithereens.
It was an act of desperation at that point, I believe. They were getting intimidated because Core Hall was a very powerful core world, much like Tarsonis.
Right, and
that is before they turned it into a radioactive desert.
Right, and that literally turned half the sector against the Confederacy overnight. Well, and remember, when I'm saying half the sector, this was before we even knew of the Protoss and Zerg, to a large extent.
So, in some ways, we're naming a couple positive things about, well, not positive. Let's say human. Let's say sympathetic in some ways. So Mengsk is a guy who's been forged by tragedy. Okay, he was a prospector. He never originally wanted to be a political leader like his father. This was kind of thrust upon him. He is facing the invasion of two alien species that have not really been encountered, at least on this scale, and they're both extremely powerful and dangerous. And he is dealing with a corrupt and oppressive government, the Confederacy. So all those three things make him look good.
I think to his mind, what he was really getting at was that he felt the Confederacy and its military were largely ineffective. Okay, they could not stop the Zerg invasion. They could not stop the Protoss, who are just literally incinerating their entire worlds. Which technically that is true. And I think what Mengsk believed is that look, there has to be new leadership here. Okay, someone has to get in on the Confederacy's leadership council to tell them the leaders of the Confederacy they have to go because they are not doing anything except destroying humanity. But the way he saw it is because of all the power the Confederacy High Senate have, they are never just going to willingly let go of the power, which means someone has to literally force them to give it up.
Mm-hmm.
And this basically ties in very conveniently with his plans. So it's like, okay, look, the Central Power's all on Tarsonis. If we can just get rid of Tarsonis, the Confederacy will disappear. Their leaders will have nothing left. They'll have no choice but to give up the power anyway. And it conveniently ties in with himself as payback for what they did to Core Hall for just literally nuking the whole planet.
Now let's think about this though, because this is where Mengsk's real villainy comes in. The events of Tarsonis, starting with the aggression towards the main orbital platform and on. For instance, he could have just planted psi emitters, which is awful to begin with, to use the Zerg against people, but he could have just done it around the Confederacy central government. But if he had done that, it would have looked very conspicuous. If the Zerg just came and hit the government center and just kind of settled in there. But no, he targeted the entire planet.
I think I think what he was getting at is this, because if you have just a small part of if you just target a small part of the planet, there's no guarantee it'll work, because you have to remember the Confederate leaders have access to resources that the ordinary people do not have. That includes means of escape under planetary invasion, all that stuff. Therefore, as far as Mengsk sees it from military perspectives, to have the best chance to make sure the Confederate leadership is completely annihilated, you have to destroy the whole of Tarsonis.
I still think that if he had just planted the psi emitter at the governmental thing, he could have then put ships in orbit to snipe down all of the people trying to flee from the planet. I think this was really just an example of Mengsk being ruthless, where he didn't want anybody that would have been extremely loyal to the Confederacy to live into the new age with the Dominion. He just wanted them all gone, which is also kind of why he got rid of Kerrigan, because she was somebody that was in the Ghost program for many, many years and even assassinated his father. So, it's much easier to just get rid of her than to try to make sure that she'll stay on his side.
Couldn't this also have been cold-blooded vengeance for Korhal? You destroyed my world, I destroy your world.
It is indeed that, but with regards to what the other person was saying about leaving Kerrigan there, it's not just vengeance. It's not just vengeance for Kerrigan killing his father. It's well, let's put it this way: by the time they were getting very close to dealing with Tarsonis, it was obvious to Mengsk that Kerrigan was not going to obey all the orders he issued her. Okay, normally ghosts are supposed to obey without question because of that neural inhibitor, but Mengsk removed it to give Kerrigan some more free will and everything. And
also to get on her good side.
Right, that too. But as I've read from the book Flashpoint, Rayner had pointed out to Kerrigan that look to Mengsk, you're just a gun that's supposed to point in a direction, shoot, that's it. Okay, but it's becoming pretty clear to him you're not going to do that anymore, and as far as he's concerned, you're not going to be as obedient as he would have liked. So because of that, you're now a liability problem to him.
Also, he probably knew that Rayner would go berserk when he did that to Kerrigan. It was just an indirect way of getting an excuse to get rid of Rayner too. Because he knew Rayner would freak out. He's not just going to sit there and be okay with it.
Really, if you recall, right at the very last mission of the StarCraft 1 Terran campaign, you will recall that Mengsk was still wanted Rayner to be on his side.
No, he started doing his smooth talk. Gentlemen, you've all done very well. And then he's doing this saucy talk that he knows is going to drive Rayner up the wall. Of course it does, and then he can just annihilate him with vindication. He's justified.
I don't think he was trying to antagonize Rayner. I think what he was I think that he had not made a serious enough. He didn't think he made a serious enough blow, and he still had influence over him, and he was trying to exercise that. While he just underestimated how much Kerrigan meant to Rayner.
I guess so. If that's the case, I mean, he would have to have. Go ahead.
Well, let's put it this way. I think that a lot of people have said that Mengsk had lost touch with reality, but I think he lost touch with reality the moment Duke joined hands with the Sons of Korhal, because remember, both Rayner and Kerrigan have protested against this.
Yep, definitely. You really gonna trust this snake? Don't worry, Jim. He's our snake now.
Well, I really think that Mengsk was almost always in a position where he kind of transcended reality. I mean, he was a guy that was almost a genius, was a genius. He was on the higher end of the genius scale when he took an IQ test in high school. I mean, this guy was way smarter than everyone else. He figured out everyone else instantly. He knew exactly how to push people's buttons and how to get them to obey him. And
he's a master politician.
Master politician, master manipulator.
The problem with that title is it also comes with a sense of overconfidence and arrogance. Once you've been able to do that too many times, it causes the mind to think you can do it to whatever audience you want at any given time, no matter what the circumstances. And as we saw in Wings of Liberty, that did not work anymore.
Mm-hmm. One other aspect of the destruction of Tarsonis that we haven't touched is the mass panic that would ensue. Oh my God, these aliens just wiped out the strongest center of human civilization in the sector. We're broken. We're in danger. We're all in danger. Nobody's safe. We've got to turn to help. And then there he is, with open arms. And they're more than willing to accept it.
He's literally standing there with that massive speech that you said at the beginning of this video that, was just absurdly appropriate for the time, almost like he planned to say that before he actually destroyed Tarsonis, like he had written that out.
And he makes it seem like it's their idea.
Yeah.
This is what we need to do. If you do it, this is what happens. I'm offering to help, to save us. We're unprecedented. We could go extinct. And there they go. They just flock to him, those that hadn't already. And of course, he uses the bandwagon mechanic. He says, already many of the descended factions have joined us. This is where it's going. Get on, for it's too late. We need this. We must unite.
It's nothing unprecedented. This is a very simple concept. Okay, we all say we're all a civilized society and everything, but though that's based under a couple of assumptions. One, the lights are on, the machines are running. You can dial 911 and help actually come. If you take these things away, you put people in the dark, you scare the living hell out of them, they're going to turn to anyone who can promise a solution, temporary or permanent, in the short term, under any circumstances.
Well, it depends on what we mean by unprecedented. I mean, in the terms of facing two alien races that are capable of wiping out whole worlds, yeah, it is unprecedented. But if you're talking about, a situation where people panic and stuff, no, that happened many times throughout human history.
Right. But like I said, that's actually the one thing that Mengsk constantly used to keep the public on his side and to demonize Raynor. If you recall, at the end of the Great Train Robbery, when Raynor found the Confederate adjutant, but at that moment didn't know what was on it, if you had paid attention to one of the news broadcasts, Donnie Vermillion was basically saying, look, Mengsk came to power through rebellion and everything, so why the hell should Raynor not be allowed to do the same thing? And he said, that's easy, because Raynor is raging his rebellion in the middle while we're in war with the Zerg and the Protoss that have the ability to destroy entire worlds. You want to divide humanity into a civil war while we're in the middle of this?
Which is just misdirection. I mean, it's like, look, no matter what's going on, we don't want a mass murdering, egomaniac in control of everyone's lives. But they're ignoring that fact.
Right.
They're acting like it's just a political difference.
I think it's literally that they just haven't been exposed to that fact, because Mengsk, again, had you can see it in the campaign, actually. If you watch those news clips, it's very hard edited around most of those commentaries. And it's very much showing Mengsk in a very positive light, saying, oh, these rebels, they had it coming. They've been killing off Dominion forces for years. We needed to shut them down. We needed to murder everyone. And he can kind of say that about almost anyone. He could probably make that argument against women and children if he really wanted to.
Yeah, that's
right.
It's one of the reasons why I hate Kate Lockwell, because she breaks the fourth wall so hard. Like, there is absolutely 100% no way anyone who wasn't completely on Mengsk's side would be on that broadcasting network. No way. But it's there for the players' sake. It's some satire and humor.
I'm not entirely sure that was actually for the player's sake. I think there was more to it than that. Okay.
All right.
We all know Mengsk is a genius and all that kind of stuff. But if he is truly a genius, then he has to realize when you're telling the truth is just a point of view. Okay. There's going to be multiple point of views to a whole story. The truth really lies somewhere in the middle. Okay. And he has to be smart enough to know the public knows that and you can't just expect just one point of view only, and it is always that same point of view. Sooner or later, the public are going to know wasn't there another point of view? Didn't someone see it another way? And I think for that reason is why Kate Lockwell was there, and why she was never targeted for assassinations for trying to go against the Dominion or anything like that.
Were that the case, Donnie Vermillion would have been aware of that purpose, and he clearly wasn't, and they would have just fired her. I really don't find that plausible, but it's an interesting take. I don't know. It'd be interesting. Hey, if you want, put in the chat and in the thread connected what you think of that. What was Kate Lockwell kind of just to please the gamer, or was she there for some actual legitimate reason as far as the lore goes?
Tell me something, Doncroft. Have you ever did you read the StarCraft short story Newsworthy? Because if you had done that, you would have known why Kate Lockwell is not just a mindless drone to the Dominion.
Oh, I imagine not. And no, I haven't, which is why I'm not going to be able to comment much on that.
Well, I can explain that to you at a later time.
Yeah, we don't want to get too far off of Mengsk. Now, let's see. Okay, so he does some very interesting things right after founding the Dominion. I mean, he goes pretty. I mean, how did he when he went to my mind's completely going blank. What was the world? The Char. Duh. Char. Okay, so he sends the fleet to Char with Edmund Duke, who is like one of his top generals. That was a pretty interesting move, considering that was supposed to be an insignificant world.
Right, because I don't think at that point they knew that Char was actually the Zerg base of operations in the Koprulu sector. At least I don't think they knew that yet.
Does anyone recall Kerrigan said something about her telepathy had been calling out to both Mengsk and Raynor while she was in the Chrysalis?
That's all she said, though. I think that they understood that the world was underneath Zerg influence, but I don't think they knew the extent of it.
Okay, so you think it like one of many actions he was taking to counter the Zerg threat?
Yeah, he probably could have disguised it as that.
All that was said was Kerrigan's psionic signals cries for help. But as far as I know, it seemed like it was only for Raynor. I don't think it was for anything else. But the psionic signals were so strong, it drew in more than just Raynor. It drew in Duke, it drew in Tasdar, it drew in
Oh, that's right. Yes, I forgot about Tasdar being drawn in. I knew he was there, but I forgot that was... Yeah. So Kerrigan kind of becomes the hard point for that whole incident on Char, which was the major follow-up incident to what happened on Tarsonis.
Right, and that's where that's where Mengsk realized his actions in leaving Kerrigan there now came back to bite him.
Right. See, it's Raynor and Kerrigan are the two loose ends he never really managed to tie up.
Well, that's not what I see it. Here, you have to realize another thing, okay? But right after Tarsonis, but before we go to the Zerg campaign of StarCraft 1, as far as Mengsk was concerned, Kerrigan had already died, okay? The Zerg had already killed her, so that loose end was already tied up, okay?
But it wasn't.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
Right. But I'm talking from Mengsk's point of view. He thought the loose end was tied up, because he thought, how could I have possibly imagined the Zerg would actually do something like that? Okay, so that's...
he couldn't have. It wasn't a failure in terms of, like, tactics or anything. It was it was more, he underestimated...
It was really bad luck. That's basically what it was.
I think he was also underestimating the Zerg.
He thought they were kind of just mindless killers, almost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he thought they were just a bunch of dumb animals. All they knew was kill, kill, kill. That's it.
So perhaps he thought once he stopped playing with his toy psi emitters, the Zerg wouldn't be that hard to deal with a united Terran military.
Possibly.
That makes sense.
But okay, so that's the part on Kerrigan's loose end. Now let's go to Raynor's loose end, because Mengsk knew Raynor destroyed the Tarsonis ion cannon and was able to escape. But now look at it this way, okay? With the Confederacy reorganized into the Terran Dominion, Mengsk now had tens of millions of soldiers under his command, along with the Ghost program, which he never abolished.
Yes, he's got control of the Ghost program. No, that's a good point.
Okay, this I'll go briefly into the Ghost Academy comics and all that stuff. His distrust for the Confederacy Ghost program, Mengsk actually killed half of the Ghost trainees and Ghost agents in the Confederacy. The ones that survived were then trained into Dominion Ghosts and to be utterly loyal to him.
Now, how did he choose which half to wipe out? Was it just random, or did half of them would not join him because they were like ultra loyal or psychically conditioned?
I unfortunately don't know that because I never read the Ghost Academy comics, but killing half the Ghost program, I do know that happened.
As far as I'm aware, we've never been revealed what I'm thinking of. We've never been given the details of why he chose. We were never given the criteria of what Ghost he chose and why. I would imagine he took a look at a bunch of different factors, such as their skill, their ability at performing espionage and assassination, their loyalty prior, how easily they would be, bent to other people's will, etc., etc. And he just picked off anybody that may have ended up in a mission failure or a creating another loose end for him to deal with.
Well,
possibly.
If we watch the cinematic, we can see that while he's talking, it shows parts of the Sons of Korhal annihilating and hunting down remaining parts of the Confederacy. So obviously not everyone was welcome to join the new Dominion. He was getting rid of anyone he didn't think he could trust.
Right. Right, but now I'm going to go back to the part with Raynor's loose end on Mengsk. Okay, now as I was saying, as far the way Mengsk saw it, he had the military with tens of millions of soldiers. He had the Confederate Ghost program, which is now his Ghost program. He had General Duke, who was a very capable general. Okay, now, with regards to how capable Raynor is, it does not matter because from Mengsk's point of view, it does not matter how good your commander is. If your military force and the resources at your disposal are too small, you cannot win.
Right, he's got like 600 colonial militia soldiers.
Exactly.
With what? Pistols? We don't know. A couple vehicles, couple weapons.
No. He's got he has even less than that. The Raiders, by the time they were formed, when they left Tarsonis, only had about 400 people. By the beginning of Brood War, they were reduced to only 40 people.
What? Whoa.
Yeah.
A lot of them were killed whenever he was on Char. Only 40 of them managed to get away, and he used those 40 to sort of trek around and live off of Char.
Kind of saved whatever was left. Now, I imagine that's probably what happened to the colonial magistrate, or the ex-colonial magistrate. He was probably killed during that period, because we never see him again.
No. We don't know that for sure.
You don't know it, but I'm assuming.
Right. Well, here's all we know. According to the book Queen of Blades, it was said that the colonial magistrate, the Terran player you played in StarCraft 1, 6 weeks after the Raiders were formed, he left them. And was never heard from again. That's all we know.
That's a very bad way to tie up a character, in my opinion.
Extremely bad.
Yeah.
Gosh, dang it.
Well,
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that book has a lot of really weird things, and I'm not entirely pleased with that
what book is that?
Queen of Blades.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
You're not alone. A lot of people have complained about that book. I can see why.
But back to what I was saying. So Mengsk felt because Raynor had such a small fleet, there's no way he can win. And in addition, because the way the Dominions formed, Mengsk is the voice of the law, the order, the media, whatever you call it like that. Which means it's not like Mengsk can just go to the court and tell them any of that. And besides, at that moment in time, no one, Mengsk, Raynor, or anyone else knew the Confederacy had actually intercepted those transmissions, which meant Raynor had actually no proof of what really happened on Tarsonis until 4 years later in Wings of Liberty.
Right, and I think people wouldn't have been ready to hear it anyways. I don't think they would have listened.
Well,
they would have just thought it was propaganda.
Yeah, not at that moment. So the way Mengsk saw it at that moment, which is right after he formed the Dominion, was that he had already won. Okay, Raynor's actions at this moment, even if he can get away, and even if he's not hunted down by the Dominion military, he can do nothing more than delay the inevitable.
Right. Okay, I want to bring it down to the last part of the topic, is Mengsk at the beginning of Brood War. Is it fair to say that after the the Great War, the Zerg invasion of Aiur, that for a time, before the UED expeditionary fleet arrived, Mengsk and the Dominion were the dominant force in the Koprulu sector? Because the Protoss and the Zerg had just beat the heck out of each other. The Overmind was dead. Aiur was in ruins. And
right, and the whole swarm was scattered at that moment. Kerrigan had not reunited anyone yet.
So by the time, go ahead.
I'm not really sure about that, because keep in mind that the Cerebrats were still alive and they were still very much active. They managed to get themselves onto Shakuras. And if they wanted to, they could have easily gotten over to the Terran sector and just messed up more of their worlds, taken more people, stuff like that.
But I think they were just dedicated to the Overmind's last goal, which was to somehow assimilate the Protoss.
Right.
Yeah.
They were kind of all in on it.
I wouldn't know. Well, to that degree, but first they have to ensure their own survival, which was why they had to create a new Overmind on Char.
Well, I think that was just their contingency. It was just somehow built into their DNA. The Cerebrats did not know how to function without an Overmind.
No. They are sentient beings, but the problem is they're.
I know they're sentient. I'm not saying they couldn't function. I mean, it's just not in their nature.
It's not that. It's to ensure their own survival. It was never said this in the StarCraft games, but if you had actually read up on the lore, the Cerebrats are symbiotically linked to the Overmind. In other words, if the Overmind dies, the Cerebrats will only have a very short time before they die off as well, and that is why, after the death of the second Overmind in Brood War, all the Cerebrats quickly died off a couple years later.
Well, actually, Kerrigan killed them off. She hunted them down and killed them personally.
They would have died.
Then she replaced them with her brood mothers.
All I'm saying is they would have died eventually anyway. Kerrigan only sped the process up. But back to the original question: was Mengsk the dominant power in the Koprulu sector? It's really hard to say, because the Zerg weren't really targeting the Terrans as much as they were targeting the Protoss.
Right, which made it much easier for Mengsk to bloat up his military and really get his government going.
Right, and I think that's this time the shoe is going to be on the other foot in Heart of the Swarm. This time the goal is going to be changed. I mean, Kerrigan wants the Swarm to take revenge on Mengsk. Yes, the Protoss is going to get in the way, but her mentality is like, just kill the Protoss quickly. I don't have time to deal with this. I want them out of the way so I can get the Swarm ready to kill Mengsk already.
Right, because Mengsk's two big periods of military buildup were pre-Brood War, and then after the Brood War, he's allowed to limp away from the final battle of the Brood War, where Kerrigan defeats the triple offensive against her on that orbital platform over
Yeah, I remember, it's on Char.
And okay, so basically, has Mengsk ever legitimately built up the power, or is it just being handed to him over and over, these opportunities?
Let me tell you a little something, okay? The only reason Mengsk is still on the throne, or for that matter, even still alive, is not due to his skills or anything. It's all been due to luck. Let's start from the very beginning, shall we? Okay, First, we go to the end of the Terran campaign in StarCraft 1, okay? Kerrigan was taken by the Zerg. Raynor had no proof of everything, and as a result, old Mengsk was portrayed as the savior of humanity, yada, yada, yada.
Okay? See, that's the one time I think it wasn't luck that he actually earned that. That was his shining moment.
Right, but let me continue, okay? Then we go to the Zerg campaign. Raynor was still portraying his rebellion against Mengsk, but because of Kerrigan's rebirth into the Swarm, and then his ally with Tassadar and Zeratul, what happened was he thought, okay, I owe them a debt. I should fight alongside the Protoss to take the fight to the Zerg. And this was continued on all the way into Brood War, despite Aier's fall, when he and Phoenix helped hold off as much Zerg as they could to prevent them from going to Shakuras. Okay, that was the Protoss campaign of Brood War. Now let's go to the Terran campaign of Brood War.
Basically, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think we all get it. That basically the power just keeps falling into his lap, because it's almost like the Queen of Blades somehow had this sadistic hatred for him, in that she hated him so much that she didn't want him to die. She wanted him to suffer and be humiliated. It's like, get up so I can kill you again.
It's more like this. I think Kerrigan at the end of Brood War was basically telling a speech. Was basically telling the speech that look, you've been telling your Dominion people we're gonna win through no matter the cost. Look at your pitiful excuse of a Dominion now. Your whole military is virtually gone. You think you're gonna win through now? But all right, if you really think you're gonna go through, fine. I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna give you a few years. You can get your military back up, and we'll meet on the battlefield a few years later. Let's see who's right. Let's see who's right, who's wrong.
All right, let's close with this question. Okay, and I'd really like to hear what Boisterous and Top Secret have to say about this. The now that in Heart of the Swarm, at the beginning of the Heart of the Swarm, for the first time, is it possible that Mengsk really does have some serious power? Like, he's not being allowed to just exist. The Swarm's been devastated. The Protoss are weak. The UED is, long gone. And Mengsk has locked down with his military. So is he really a power to be reckoned with now?
That is a good point, actually. Since he's had the 4 years of military development to build up in the first place, and then he managed to basically... He wiped out the leader of the Swarm. The Protoss are still negligible. He has almost consolidated all the power in the sector to himself. I haven't read Flashpoint before. What I know about it, spoiler alert if anyone hasn't read it yet. Apparently, a big chunk of his fleet was actually taken out. Oh, hold on. Someone else go while the phone finishes.
No,
Okay.
We're not having viewer call in. Not yet.
Not yet.
Oh yeah.
All right.
All right.
So anyway,
hold on.
basically what I
Hold on,
understood about it is that Valerian actually took half the Dominion fleet to that assault on Char that we saw at the end of Wings of Liberty. So you see him actually losing basically half his army to the Swarm in, a bid to get Kerrigan back. And I think that you'll see a lot of people actually stay loyal to Raynor out of that patrol, because you see Horace Warfields, who is, of course, the general for Mengsk, kind of agreeing with Raynor and saying, like, yeah, you're right, this guy's a corrupt son of a bitch.
He is.
Hold on a second. Where
Wait.
exactly did he say that?
No, he basically said, Raynor's a terrorist. He's branded an enemy of the state, but he's seen him fight in battle. Raynor's honorable. He actually cares about the lives of even Dominion soldiers, and the heck we know that Mengsk sure doesn't care. He only cares about his own military power. So, now that he's gotten to know Raynor, yeah, I definitely think that's how he feels.
Right. Well, actually, here's something.
But the thing is, we're going to have to close out here because we are way over time. So, any final thoughts on Mengsk and the Dominion, especially the founding thereof?
Not in terms of the founding thereof.
No, I think I'm pretty good.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think we got everything out of the way.
All right, we covered a lot of topics. Well, yeah, okay. Well, that was a long one, ladies and gentlemen, but if you sat through it, props to you. And hey, if you're a lore lover like we are, you can add me on Skype. It's Doncroft1, DONCROFT1, and we'll talk about maybe getting you on the show. All right, so we will see you on the next episode. Thank you for
Goodbye,
watching.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Another time.